Thursday. It's 5. We're live. Welcome to Frankly Speaking, where truth is our mission. Rally our realm. Said as we see it, and frankly as well. Our number here is 781-780-9460. Take that number down because we're going to start testing you in the Sages.
Right.
But before we get going, Paul is on business.
Right.
You know, he's doing God's work.
And Malcolm is with his wife, who's at Salem Hospital. She's been in serious condition. She's been upgraded. So all our prayers are with her, with Wendy, his wife, with Malcolm's wife.
We wish her a speedy recovery.
And we'll say some prayers for her. Okay.
Please God get better.
Malcolm, you
Mrs.
take
Mitchell.
care of your bride there.
Absolutely.
So let's get right to our little thing. This is a new thing. Did you know? And 8 questions, and you folks out there, get your pad and pencil out there. I'm going to give you a little time. I'm going to ask you 8 questions, and at the end of the show, let's see how good you are. And possibly you might get a T-shirt like this if you answer all the questions. Let's get it up there. Did you know who was the only president to be elected unanimously? Got that? Who was the only president to be elected unanimously? Question number 2. Who was the first president to hold a press conference on television? The first president to hold a press conference on television. Question number 3. 2 elections resulted in the House of Representatives deciding who would be president. Name those 2 elections or who the 2 contestants were. 2 in the House of Representatives were. Who was the first president to give a speech on television? The first to give a speech on television. Who was the first president to ride in a railroad train? You like these? Huh?
Right, very
Malcolm,
good.
Very
good.
Malcolm's not here. Avram.
Avram, you writing them
Is
down?
this testing your brain a little bit?
Well, to be frank with you, you picked a topic I'm not. If you talk about stocks and bonds and how to buy short and sell long, then we're doing something, okay?
Typically Jewish, huh?
Exactly. This is not my field.
Who was the only president to take the oath of office from a female official? That's an interesting one, huh? Mm-hmm. Who was the first president to run against a woman candidate? For president, by the way, right? Obviously. Who was the only president to have been a prisoner of war? Now, folks, you get those down? If you need them repeated, give us a call at 781-780-9460, and we'll find out whether you know what you're talking about.
They were pretty high. I didn't know them all. I think I knew 6 or
Did
7.
you get some of them down there?
I got some of them.
We'll test you out.
Yeah.
Frankly, Joe, a $43 billion fiscal 220 state budget is awaiting Governor Baker's signature. That's an awfully big number. And it got me thinking. About 30 years ago, when Speaker Kavarian presided over the House of Representatives, I sat in the gallery as the members debated a $13 billion budget. It was a summer special session because it was contentious, $13 billion. Imagine that. So if you do a little math, that's about $1 billion increase per year since that time.
Yeah.
At the national level, a deal has been struck by the federal government. They're going to be spending $2.7 trillion over the next 2 years. Is that right, Ralph?
Right.
And that's $50 billion increase over last year with no end in sight.
And we may get the blue line. I mean,
Well, wait a second. You may. But
May.
Lynn's budget
right.
is upwards to $370 million, right?
Right.
And that's increasing with no end in sight. And meanwhile, Lynn may get the blue line.
Right, and Lynn keeps putting more people on. They just a couple weeks ago, I think they just put 4 new people on payroll.
So let's get to that blue line. Maybe this time. Maybe. Kudos to your buddy, Senator Creighton, for attaching a caveat.
Good friend of mine, yeah.
Well, on this one, he did the right thing.
Okay.
He attached a caveat to the recently passed $43 billion budget.
Right.
And in effect, what it said is that the Massachusetts Department of Transportation is required to study the feasibility of extending the blue line to Lynn.
You know what that means?
Right.
When they have a study to check it out, it means they're not going to do it.
It's going to cost $1 million for the study.
Well, why don't you read? Read down.
No, I didn't read that.
See, you're
I
anticipating.
it. I don't have it in front of me. It's not on the screen anymore.
Pedro, let's get that up there.
Okay.
In 2013, they did a study between $700 million to $1 billion
Right.
to do that,
Right.
to extend the blue line. Now it's up to Governor Baker to accept or reject. He can line item veto this.
Right.
You're right. It's probably not going to happen. Is it dancing? Is it
That's why we're
charade?
studying it, because that's a quick way of just passing it off and saying we forget
I don't know
about
how
it.
they've sold the rights to the bed all the way up here from the blue line. They've sold the rights away to private developers. I don't know how they can extend the blue line. How can they possibly do it?
And it'll
We
take
talked about
years.
Monterey,
If they started tomorrow, the work and the construction, it'll take at least 5 or 6 years,
at least.
at least.
Well, if they use a commuter rail bed for a monorail, that's a completely different situation. See, they need a massive change in how they think. It has to be a completely different idea. We need somebody to come in and run the whole thing.
Who's been saying that consistently?
I have.
And so hasn't this guy over here.
But at the same time, you say they need to start thinking differently. That's doing it ass backwards, you pardon my expression. What they need is new people to do the thinking.
That's a good point.
Right.
You said to me, and you like to say it, where's the golf course?
Yeah, and where's that big tower?
You don't know where it is.
I was looking for that tower all week long.
Does anybody know where it is?
No!
And that's a problem, isn't it? A lot of people don't know what the assets in the city of Lynn are.
They have these little plackets near the central bus station on my walk. I saw it one day, and they talk about all the things in Salem and everywhere else, but only 2 things from Lynn, and they don't tell anything about
What
Lynn.
other things from Lynn that they write?
I think it's the tower
Right.
and the
Golf course
in
in
the
the
golf
woods?
course. I think in the woods or the woods. But
Now,
only 2 of
here's
them.
what happened, and I'm going to give a little kudos to our reps when they do their job, doing their job. Now,
Right.
we can argue earmarks one way or the other. Some
Right.
people say it's a lot of pork. So if we can put this up, earmarks, these things are happening, coming to Lynn. This is definitive. There's been a $19 million increase over last year in Chapter 70 aid money that will be
Right.
coming to the city of Lynn. And the cumulative, I believe it was about $250 million. Additionally, $3 million increase in Lynn's school budget. Go ahead.
Why is there a $3 million increase in the school budget? That's a hell of a lot of money to increase by 1 year. You know why that's so high? Because there's too many people there.
Because that's one thing, and probably they're hedging against the influx of a whole bunch of unaccompanied minors in
That's
the school
right,
system
right.
coming this fall.
Ridiculous.
Well, there's 300,000. That's a conservative estimate of unaccompanied minors getting into the United States this year,
Right,
this fall.
right.
At 15,000 a clip,
And they're all coming here.
a bunch of them are, for sure. So, there's 25,000 for repairs for Pickering's auditorium. Apparently, Representative,
Creighton. No,
pardon?
Creighton doing this? Who's
No, this was Danny Kael.
Cahill.
Danny Kael went to Pickering to see an event apparently for his kids there. You know,
Right.
and the auditorium noticed that the chairs were
Right.
not in too good a shape, so he got 25 grand to fix the chairs, which is a good thing. I have no idea what the Lynn Police Department's behavioral health unit is, whether it's a good or a bad thing, but he's got 150,000 going to that. 55,000 for the maintenance of Red Rock Park. I thought that was state property. to
I
start
thought that
with.
was state property. Yeah.
So why would 55,000 matter? That doesn't happen with the city budget.
No, it does.
right?
The city doesn't control it. I believe the state controls that. If I'm not
Yeah, I mean it's a
mistaken.
good thing.
Right.
That money for the police department, you know what that's for? To see if they're psychologically balanced.
Behavioral health unit.
Yes,
That's what it's about.
seriously.
Huh? This, I think, is a really good one. 90,000 goes to the E-Team Machinist Program, and that's where they develop kids to become, and that's a good
Machinists,
thing.
right.
Training.
That's a very good thing.
Good train.
And there's a 375,000, sounds like a big number, and I looked it up for the Foresight Dental Program in the Lynn School System. In effect,
Is
this
that
is
for-
dental hygienists that they're training.
Oh, they're training. Oh, this is for
These are
training.
kids
Okay,
who
right.
take a course.
That's a very good job for somebody.
So you say that these two are very good earmarks.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's the point. You know, sometimes people look at earmarks and say, like the little pig up there,
Right.
and it's not necessarily pork.
It was by accident.
Training kids for real jobs that really exist when they get out of school.
both of those are good.
That's very well said, because that's exactly what most
Yeah.
people have an education
Right.
in psychology, whatever. Then after they're through with college, they go into the carpeting business.
Right. It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
Now there's 50,000 for the cleanup, and I can't even pronounce this. Pilelia?
Pilelia.
Algae on
Algae.
Kings Beach.
Right.
That doesn't sound like a heck of a lot of money to
That's
clear
the
that
stuff
up.
that stinks. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
that's
the
from the
algae.
sewer overflow pipe.
No. That's the algae that smells.
I know that, but the sewer outfall pipe is at that same spot.
About 15
Right.
years ago, they had MIT. They spent a fortune on trying to get rid of that smell 15 years ago. It didn't do very
Right.
well.
What happens? It washes up. The sun hits it, and it releases sulfur gas, and that's why you have the smell.
But you mean to tell me they can't go swimming in the hottest time of the year? You can't use Kings Beach?
Remember? We
The
did
red
that last
flags
week.
are up.
There
The
was
red flags
there
are
was-
up.
Because of the rain,
Yeah.
probably now it might have flushed out.
Well, you say
but
red-
it had combined.
Right.
the sewer and the outflow pipe combined,
Right.
and human waste was getting down on the beach. Yeah, bacteria.
I was trying to explain to some little kids because their mother couldn't explain to them why they can't go swimming.
Right.
Okay? I said, you're in the water, all of a sudden something passes you by, you say, oh my God, really, truly, what the hell is that? It's ridiculous.
Well, here's the last item: $25,000 for the downtown Lynn Cultural District, and I think that's probably a good thing too.
That's fine.
It would be a very good thing if Lynn had a downtown cultural district.
Lynn does probably less than almost any other. I mean, right now, like in Revere, they have the sand sculptures. We have nothing equivalent. Why don't we have something equivalent to that?
Because of Kings Beach.
Well, we have part of our beach is too into the heart, you know, even that way. I mean,
Part of it's with Swampscott too.
right, part of it's over to Swampscott.
This is a bad thing, and we talked about it last week over in Marblehead.
In
Rabbi
Marblehead,
Maya.
Yeah,
Is it
Rabbi Maya. They're trying to
They
find out.
desecrated the.
Well, they didn't do it. What they did was that they said that the Holocaust did not exist. And you know that that's against the law?
To say that?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
There have been more court trials on an international basis about Holocaust deniers. They actually have to pay a fine if they lose the case.
Really?
Yes.
Not in the United
There's a
States,
couple
in
of
other
there's a
countries.
couple
It's all over the world now,
Well,
okay?
there's a couple of U.S. representatives that may be charged for being deniers.
Could possibly be.
Well, anti-Semitism found its way to Lynn. We can
In Lynn now?
Yeah, take a look. And we had to blank out the word,
This is-
and it's bigger than that. And they said Jesus didn't do the right thing or whatever. Here's a better clip of it right
May
there.
I ask where in the city this was found?
Now, this happened, you know where they wanted to build a pot shop?
Near Boston Street, off of Boston Street?
Yeah, on
right,
the Saugus line.
right,
Okay.
right.
And the fellow named John Avery was going to open up a shop there.
Right.
And
Okay.
he happens
Yeah.
to be black, but he's
a black,
converting to
but he's
Judaism.
converted to Judaism, right.
And the person who owns the property is Jewish.
Right.
So, not an accident.
So
And
that's on the Lynn Saugus line.
on the Lynn Saugus line.
on Boston Street.
On Boston
I
Street.
approximately know where that is.
Yep.
God, oh, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's like every day in a part of the world this is what's facing us.
This is
okay?
what, you know, and if we don't point it out, it doesn't get out there.
Right,
and,
right.
and that's, you know, you got to speak out against stuff like that.
Yeah, as much as this is terrible, there's a little implication that it could have been done by somebody from Saugus just to create problems.
It doesn't matter who did it.
I
It's
know,
the fact that it
I
was
know,
done.
right.
Happened to be on Lynn property.
right.
And we're going to show a little clip before we get to the next segment. So let's throw this up. For all of you folks that were glued to the set on Wednesday, as I was, for the Mueller hearings. So let's take a peek at what happened there.
So the only thing that can top that, Jesse, maybe my monologue.
I would agree, Greg.
Let's do it. So, can you repeat the question, sir?
Can you repeat the question, sir? That went a little fast for me. Could you repeat that, ma'am? Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
The impact. Pardon?
Can you read the last question?
The last question was
I want to make
recite.
certain I got it accurate. Again, can you repeat the question? And where are you reading from on that?
I'm reading from my question.
Then could you repeat it?
Okay.
This is very, very painful. Those aren't my words, but David Axelrod, a Democrat, tweeting about the hearing. Yep, as much as they hoped for a 12-alarm fire, all the Dems got was a damp sparkler. They wanted the Empire Strikes Back, but got a rerun of Matlock. They wanted a Super Bowl. Instead, they got a test pattern. So, was it a disaster for the Democrats?
I think this has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think it's been a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller. He has seemed very uncertain with his brief. He doesn't seem to know what things that are in the report.
But don't just take it from him. I had to watch the thing, too. No choice. It was on at the gym, and it was either that or Real Housewives. If you did a shot every time Mueller said, could you repeat the question, you'd be dead. But that's not Mueller's fault. It's the Dems still intent on reliving the past, hoping the ending changes. But it can't. They're like a guy who got dumped and thinks playing their song over and over might rekindle the romance. The conclusion? Same as before. Mueller says Trump's not guilty, but the Dems want him to go beyond that and say, okay, Trump may not be guilty, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. That is, Trump wasn't exonerated. But exoneration, declaring someone innocent, isn't possible. Watch this painful exchange.
Mr. Mueller, does the Attorney General have the power
or authority to exonerate. Now, what I'm putting up here is the United States Code. This is where the Attorney General gets his power, and the Constitution, and the annotated cases of these, which we've searched. We even went to your law school, because I went to Case Western, but I thought maybe your law school teaches it differently, and we got the criminal law textbook from your law school. Mr. Mueller, nowhere in these, because we had them scanned, is there a process or description on exonerate. There's no office of exoneration at the Attorney General's office. There's no certificate at the bottom of his desk. Mr. Mueller, would you agree with me that the Attorney General does not have the power to exonerate?
I'm going to pass on that.
Why? This is the headline on all of the news channels while you were testifying today. Mueller, Trump was not exonerated. Now, Mr. Mueller, what you know is that this can't say Mueller exonerated Trump, because you don't have the power or authority to exonerate Trump.
Ugh, that did not go well. And so a 400-page lump crafted by unhappy, agenda-driven staffers collapses like a bad souffle as Trump continues to unleash an economy that lifts all boats. His adversaries sit stranded, arms flailing, going nowhere, stuck in the past as the future starts looking like 2016 all over again. The Democrats wanted so badly for Mueller to give his report new life. Instead, he took it out to the woods and shot it.
Well, folks,
I do not think that Mueller wrote that report.
He didn't.
He knew nothing about it. Every question they asked. I started watching early in the morning because then I had to go out to shop and I had to go out to lunch with someone. And then I came back, I watched it again as much as I could. Then I went and then took a bike ride down the beach to watch the girls in their bikinis. I come back and they're still on. I'm taking notes on the thing. But he knew nothing. Every time they asked him a question, he didn't know the answer. He had, would you repeat the question? Repeat the question. And he would never give anything out.
So the author of his name is on a report that he didn't write. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
He had 15 people doing certain sections, and he was the overseer and never paid attention, because he would say to them every single day, do we have anything on Trump yet? They'd say no. He would go away, come back 2 days later, we have this is how it went on for 2 years and cost $50 million. What a waste. You know what you could do with $50 million?
Of course.
You could feed a lot of people that can't put food on their table for about 5 years.
But they weren't interested in truth or finding the truth, were they?
They wanted to get Trump.
Of course.
Okay.
All right. Now, the issue of Russian collusion in itself, this was generated by the Obama administration.
Papadopoulos.
They sucked him in, and they used a paid informant. What's his name?
Masuda?
Joe.
Joseph Masuda, Mifsuda.
Who was a CIA agent, correct?
This man, it was an academic, supposedly.
Yeah.
I think he was just a spy for the Russians. And this man, at one time, believe it or not, all right, he went to a symposium that was paid for by Clinton's office of Commerce. Okay, of Secretary of State. The Secretary of State's office paid him to give a speech one day. This is before everything happened. So he was connected, Mifsuda, if that's how you can pronounce his name. He was paid by Clinton.
To dig up dirt, to create and encouraged by the Obama administration.
He was paid legitimately to give a speech.
But the genesis of the whole entire Russian collusion thing was a facade. It was a hoax of the first order. Do you follow that?
To be frank with you, even if they do have Russian collusion, which they probably do, everybody's doing it.
Worse than that is that what they did is far more destructive to our democracy than anything that's ever happened in the past. This makes Watergate look like child's play, and nobody wants to push the issue.
Now, and Papadopoulos' book, he says that this was a setup. He said it himself.
Everybody knows it was a setup.
He was a genesis of all this.
They put people away for what they call process crimes. And they threw the book at them. Manafort is doing 7 years at 70 years old because he might have done a few bad things financially. It had nothing to do with Russian collusion. Meanwhile, the Vice President of the United States, as Vice President running for president, son, dealt with the Ukrainians and did more dastardly things
Right.
than Manafort
Right.
did, okay?
Right.
Well, why do you think they call it politics?
Very good.
Right. But
They're really sharp today.
Papadopoulos, they sent him away for just a few days, 30 days or whatever it was. But all he did was misspeak on certain dates. He told exactly the truth, but he misspoke. It's like us saying, well, we had a show last Wednesday. Of course, we had a Thursday, but we misspoke. But
You
if I was
can
talking
indict
to
a
you,
ham
you can,
sandwich,
you can
you
be
know
indicted.
that.
You can go to jail for saying after the FBI.
The Lynn item, we're going to get to our poll question. The Lynn item had a banner headline and it read like this. Now, this is after the Mueller hearings, which you all saw. Moulton, who's running for president, you never know it because I don't know what he's doing, he doubles down, and this is the headline. Moulton doubles down on Trump impeachment after Mueller's testimony. Now, this was written by Tom Grillo, who's a pretty good writer.
Right.
And the poll question I gleaned out of it, did Mueller's testimony make the case for impeachment? Moulton thinks it did.
I don't know how anyone could watch that and understand
Another
that.
thing that could be a major scandal is why Nancy Pelosi is dragging her feet about trying to get an impeachment. Do you know why? Because for years she's been taking money from a law firm which also has an office in Moscow, which is staffed by only Russian people, okay? Did you know that?
That's Russian collusion.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Well, you know it now.
Then I hope the folks out there know about
So
it.
there's
too.
no way in hell that Nancy Pelosi is going to bring impeachment against
There's
Trump.
another reason why, because if they had impeachment hearings, remember, it's like a trial. And remember, in the House, the Republicans can bring in witnesses, and they would bring all these people in as witnesses. Okay?
And they don't want that.
And they don't want that. And this other guy, Mifsuda, the guy, we can't pronounce his name, Mifsuda, Mifsuda. Do you know where he is now?
You tell me.
They don't know. Do you know why? They think he's dead. They don't know where he is. Now, he's the one that was close to Clinton because Clinton paid him to speak. Now he's disappeared. Now, what does that happen all the time with Clinton people? Every time there's something going wrong, somebody around Clinton disappears.
Speaking of the Clintons, it's very possible that they have a contract on to kill Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because if he should ever tell who was flying on his planes on a regular basis, a lot of people are going to be in a lot of trouble because
Yes.
they knew where those planes were going. They knew why those planes were going, and Bill Clinton was logged 56 times in 1 year without supervision.
I ask you this. Why all of a sudden did the Epstein story reemerge?
About Mr. Mueller.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr.
So-
Mueller
because
ran
Mueller,
ran the FBI.
he was the director who told Acosta to take it easy on Jeffrey Epstein.
He didn't tell him to take it easy. He said to leave him alone.
Exactly.
There's a difference between taking it easy and leaving somebody alone.
What's
So
it-
they left him alone, right?
Okay?
And why did they do that?
Well, you say it's because of Bear Stearns.
That's what their claim is.
That's not the reason.
What you think is to protect all of the
Right.
Because there's
folks.
so many people that put Mueller in office, they would go down the toilet and they would drag him down with him. Okay?
Did you see where Epstein was found almost unconscious today in a cell? Did you see that?
Well,
They don't know whether a prisoner did it or he did it himself.
Well, maybe Clinton did it.
I'm telling you, if you're in the right position, you can kill anybody, anywhere, at any time, no matter who was what, if and or but. Okay, you can get them. Just
That's been
because you're
proven.
in prison in solitary confinement means nothing.
Do you remember Miguel Sindona at all, any of you?
Why does that
No.
name sound familiar to me?
He was the banker for the Vatican.
Yes. Okay. Now, yes.
And he
Yes.
ended up in federal prison because he did a deal with the Franklin Trust in the United States. The Security and Exchange Commission put him in the can.
Who was the Pope that was in office for about a week and then was found?
Pope Pius for Pope.
That was at the same time period.
John Paul I. John
Why?
Paul I.
Why was he dead so fast?
Well, there was $1 billion missing from the Vatican Bank. And what folks don't understand, they're always worried about the mafia. The mafia is nothing compared to the Italian Masons.
Oh, please! They couldn't shine their shoes.
That's right. The Italian Masons, that's Agnelli and the rest of them, they have all the power. They're the elites of the elites. They're the Rothschilds of the world, right?
They're bigger.
Probably.
The biggest corporation in the world. It's beyond trillions. Is the Vatican?
No question. So now they're at $1 billion. Miguel Sindona was their banker. He's in the federal prison. Federal prison, mind you. He gets sprung. You know what happened? They took someone's face and put it on him, and he walked out the door. Now, you got to know that people look the other way for that to happen, right? Trying to find out where the $1 billion went.
Right.
They couldn't find it. They did find it, and he ends up back in the can and mysteriously dies.
Because the church's greatest wealth is all their artwork. Their art
they have
is-
the
it's
greatest
unbelievable.
masterpieces in the world, but that's neither here nor there. That pope was in office for a week, and he was about to be the first pope to come in front of a federal commission and talk about some of the things that go on, and that's why he was killed.
You talk about John
Conspiracy
Paul
theories
I.
here,
Yeah.
folks. You heard it here. Now, I want to get to something that's fascinating. Let's see if you guys can play.
Let's see what's
Folks,
fascinating first.
that is a great story.
All right.
All right. 781-780-9460 if you have any answers to those questions. Oh, last week's poll, I'm sorry, which is pretty surprising. Not very many votes this time. 62% say no, that the president is not a racist, as opposed to 40% to say yes.
I can't believe that 4 out of 10 would say yes, though. That's almost 4 out of 10.
This is Lynn Mass.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Took the words right out of my mouth, but you said it politely. But let me say this to you. We still don't know what is the definition of a racist.
That's true. And we've been trying to develop it. We have a few things coming up later on the show that may bring a little clarification to
And
us.
we have that cartoon from my beloved friend Hirsch.
That's gonna
Goldman.
happen.
God bless you, Hirsch.
But
This is a great cartoon.
First of all, I want to get to the Equality Act. If we can put that up there, the Brazilian wax. The Equality Act adds gender identity as a protective classification in federal civil rights law. Thus, women's waxing salon employees cannot decline to wax male genitalia on one who identifies as a woman. That would constitute gender identity discrimination.
Can I say one thing to you? You just confused the hell out of me. I have no idea what the hell that just said.
In effect, what they're saying...
Please.
We
what
better
did
talk
that
off
say?
air to explain this to you.
This is the Equality Act that was passed unanimously in the House of Representatives by the Democrats. And what it says, furthermore, let's get down to the Equality Act itself, Pedro. Furthermore, the Equality Act would require schools to include male athletes who identify as transgender girls on the female sports teams. The bill passed the House of Representatives Democrats unanimously. The Republican-controlled Senate is unlikely to hold a vote on the bill, which is a good reason to maintain a Republican Senate, isn't it?
Because if it passes, I'm going to get waxed. I'm going to get waxed, I'll tell you right now.
Even
You
if
understand the Equality
even
Act?
if it doesn't pass, I'm going to get waxed. Now, that thing turned me on.
Because the whole point is that if you identify as a male and you decide to get waxed, they cannot say, excuse me, I'm not going to do it.
Every day when I wake up, I say to myself, what the hell am I?
And to today's law, you know, I
Are you male or female?
can go in, when I go to North Station, if I go to North Station, there's a male room and a female room. I can walk into the female bathroom and they can't do anything about it. Because if they call the policeman, you know what I say? I identify as a woman, and they can't do a thing about it.
But do you honestly think
Wait.
Does that make any sense, the
From now
Equality Act?
on, I'm walking into every female
You can do
woman
it,
in the
still.
world. I'm going to have
He's
a
not
ball.
excited about this.
Oh, thank
Can
you.
you believe this guy? Now, my point is this. Is there an insanity to the Equality? If anything, the Equality Act is misnamed, right? I mean, is it equal?
Oh,
There's no
please,
equality
please.
at all.
This is when you can't think of anything else to talk about. You got the brain gets a bit stupid. Okay.
We're going to get to our cartoons.
Thank you.
Let's put up the first one is on racism, if we have that one, talking about race. Racism sucks. Being falsely accused of racism sucks too. That captures it, doesn't it? I mean, it's very simple. It's like to be or not to be. Simple to the point.
I still have never heard anyone ever tell me what that word means because it's an interesting word. Race is what R-A-C and ism. What does the word ism mean? Isms goes into motion, into a verb. Okay? So that means if you're a racist, you're doing something. You're putting something into motion.
So you must commit an act to be a racist.
Basically, yes.
That's a good point. Here's the definition. A person who shows or feels discrimination or prejudice against people of other races or who believes that a particular race is superior to another. That's
what
kind
it
of
means?
sanitized.
That's what it means?
Apparently.
I'm a racist.
And you?
I just found this out.
I've never been a racist in my life.
Please, ridiculous.
That definition is open-ended, though.
no,
is, you know.
that's not a definition.
That's a universal definition.
Basically,
And it
that's a
doesn't
white
refer to
wanted.
anti-Semitism because Jews are not a race, correct? Right?
I don't even know where the word anti-Semitism came from.
But the Jews are not a race, right?
Yeah, but the Jews
Hitler
are not the
tried-
only
Hitler
Semites
tried to
either,
make-
Ralph.
What's that?
Jews are not the only Semites, so it's misnamed to start with. Arabs are Semites also.
Basically, yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Basically, yes.
So what happens is...
That's a polite word to use in like a cocktail hour. Okay?
What
He's an
troubles me is that
Mike Kim was an anti-Semite.
why do we pervert language? Why can't you say someone's crazy? Why do you have to say that they're mentally
Well, we
challenged?
don't want to upset people, that's why. Yeah.
What do you mean upset people?
Well, you know, here,
Well, you
here
we
it
have
can't tell.
perfectly good words that are clear, right?
Right.
Basically.
So why do we change them? I mean, why do we have to turn around and say we can't say manhole covers anymore? Why can't you say freshman? Oh my God! Well, I'm a female. All right, identify as a female.
That's
well,
that's
Let's
good.
get into the silly.
The word
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
if we go back to the schooling, the word man means man, and when we talk about man, it means
Human.
man and woman. It means man and
Right.
woman as a
Yeah.
general term, all right? And then we separate men and woman.
Okay.
But so a woman that sees man, she should also know it includes her when it's in that context.
Some women. You're going to say something.
Well, the very first man, Adam,
Yeah.
was alone. He wanted company. So God took from him his rib and made woman.
Right.
Now, why did he use the rib? You know why he used the rib?
No.
Because you can live without a rib.
All right.
You can't
Right.
you?
Okay?
It's interesting that preternatural Adam, he's the one that had the baby, Eve. Is that interesting?
Say that again?
But in the preternatural Adam and Eve, Adam had the baby. Adam had Eve. Eve came from Adam.
That's an interesting point there, Ralph. I had
That-
never thought of it that
that's-
way.
And the new Adam and Eve in space-time, women now have children. It's interesting. It's interesting of why it was switched from men to women.
There are two different stories regarding Genesis, I'm told.
Yes.
Does anybody know what they are?
Yeah, well, basically, I know what it really means. Adam was created outside of space and time, outside of this universe. All right. And then he saw that Adam needed someone else, so he created from Adam. He created Eve.
Yeah.
All right, in a way which we cannot understand. Adam did not have a body like us. All right, had a different kind of a body. Eve had a different kind of a body. They screwed up. They fell. They sinned against God. The punishment was God created the universe, space-time. We call it space-time. And within space-time, Adam and Eve were born again.
But
they were born again
but the thing of it
in
is that,
in order for mankind to be saved, right?
At that point in time, when that happened,
Mm-hmm.
he held Eve accountable, and that's why he said that from now on you will carry children, and it'll be a very painful experience.
That's right. Women was
So-
punished to have babies
so-
the way they do. Yeah.
But in real terms, God, there is no time. There's no such thing as past, present,
For
future.
God
for a
sees
God,
everything
correct?
past. He sees everything
It's
past, present,
pure
and future.
existence.
Absolutely.
right.
It's only because of us, in order to make our lives a little bit more simpler, we have space and time.
Right.
Right. So when you eliminate space and time, that we become now eternal. Is that correct?
That's right.
Exactly.
Trinity's outside of space and time. All right.
What about this rib? So there's another story about the rib,
No,
apparently?
That's it.
That's it.
Well, our directors say no, but we'll find out. They'll flash it to me.
Okay.
Let's get to the cartoon of racism once again. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior.
Right.
That particular, everybody thinks that their particular tribe is the better tribe.
Right.
I tend to think that.
You really think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Well-
I think, for example, that an Eskimo thinks that they're a little better than an Aborigine.
Well, that's a hell of a comparison.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, really, truly. I mean, all right, okay.
pretty good one, isn't it?
It's, yeah.
Not bad.
Okay.
So let's get Avram's cartoon up there. So you speak to it, Avram.
Reb Goldman, anti-Trump forever. This all took place after the two nights of debating with the Democrats, all of a sudden, the next day, they're all down at the detention centers raising hurly hell. Detained immigrants sleep on hard concrete floors. Impeach Trump. Detention camps don't have beds. Everybody hates Trump, but later on in the protest, detention camps have bed bugs.
Didn't they vote against funding to bring beds and
Right.
relief? Didn't the four
Right.
musketeers,
Right.
whoever they are?
They voted against the funding to upgrade their facilities, and some liberal labor organization that was working for a company in Boston that provided children's beds. They went on strike to not provide beds for the children.
Pedro, could you bring that back one more time? Because what I'm trying to say is that the whole protest comes down to nothing. Boycott beds exactly by supporting Trump's detention facilities.
Well,
The whole thing is they want Trump to fail. They want Trump to fail. Everything in the government to fail under Trump. That's the only goal that they have.
But the whole point is they're just protesting for the sake of protesting.
but is it for protesting or is it to deconstruct what is America exceptionalism? It's deeper than that. It's deeper than just protesting. They want to destroy the cultural society and the structure of the United States.
They try to
don't
destroy
Isn't that
capitalism.
ultimately what they want to do?
Destroy
A protest,
capitalism.
What does never mind defining racism, define protest.
Yeah, what is a protest?
Well, here again,
something you don't like?
basically you're talking about something you don't like and it shouldn't be.
So in that case, you want to destroy it.
Yeah.
Okay. So a protest is a destructive, violent force.
Where are we supposed to take all these people coming into this country illegally? What are we supposed to do? Seriously.
They
think
say
of-
there's between 1,000 and 1,500 every day coming in.
Yeah, but answer his question. What is the question again?
where are we supposed to put all these people?
Are we supposed to take them in the first place?
No, there's no place for them. They're not coming here like your father came to this country.
A judge ruled today, by the way, a federal judge ruled today that Trump,
California.
they can't register them outside the country and then bring them in. They can't come in the country until they register outside the country. And a federal judge in San Francisco ruled against Trump today, of course.
Well, that federal judge was certainly appointed by Obama, right?
He was an Obama
Okay.
appointee, absolutely.
So the cabal still exists, does it not?
Absolutely.
All right. California has 40 million people, roughly. It's about the size of population of a European country.
right.
Standard European country, right? 40, 50 million people. Sixth to seventh largest economy in the
I
world.
think they about 40 representatives, House of Representatives, I think, of 40. I think
52.
52, okay.
It's a huge
So-
state.
Yeah, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is that it offsets. This is why everybody wants to get rid of the Electoral College.
Right.
If you get rid of not everybody, the Democrats. If you get rid of the Electoral College, then you might as well pack it in because New York, Texas, and they're trying to turn Texas, as you well know, and
Right.
Florida,
Right.
and New York would
Right.
run the whole show.
Well,
Everybody else would be subject to the whims of those
Orange
states.
County in California used to be 30 years ago was almost 80% white. Now it's 80% Spanish. And we've lost 4 representatives in the 16 election. We lost 4 representatives that were Republicans, and now they've turned Democrat. And it's going to be hard.
But you could ask the legitimate question: how many of the folks voting in California have the right to vote? Are citizens?
Not many. I told
Probably
you.
not too many.
Exactly. So when they talk about, if you were to exclude California from the last election in 2016,
Right.
who won the popular vote?
Donald Trump.
Trump, actually.
Easily, by
But-
millions.
yeah, exactly.
last time
Just by taking California out of the equation.
20 years ago, the House of Representatives, was controlled by the Republicans for the first time in a long time. They did a survey, and they found 5,000 in Bob Dornan's district that were non-citizens and should not have voted. They ran out of money. After $1 million, they had no more money. And Dornan lost by, I think, 8,000 votes. So he could not make up that 3,000. And since then, Sanchez has been in there.
For 18 years.
For 19 times she's been in.
That's
19 times
that's-
Sanchez has won after Dornan lost.
You
So
brought
are we
that
ever
up-
going to bring this
you
back?
brought that up for 3 shows in a row.
I know.
And you want to know something?
Do you know why I bring it up? Because it's the most important thing, because that is what's going to happen.
All right, but there are states
Right.
that allow, and municipalities that allow illegals to vote,
Not in the federal election.
but in local elections.
In local elections,
Okay. But does that make sense to you?
No, of course not.
Okay. So a lot of I mean, this waxing thing, the Equality Act,
Right.
does that make sense to you?
No.
That's pandering, is it not?
Right. See, once you're on the election rolls, like say Lynn allowed non-citizens and illegals to vote, how you get them off the vote when they go vote for in the 2020 election for the Congress and for the Senate and for the president? How do you get them off? How do you
Isn't
stop
that
them?
precisely why all of a sudden last week when I took a shot at your buddy there, Senator Creighton,
Yeah.
who wants to have driver's license
right.
for illegals, right? Isn't the real aim there is to once they get the license they can get
Right.
to vote? Isn't that what
Absolutely.
they're trying to do?
Absolutely.
Okay? That skews the election, doesn't it? So there's a lot of nefarious stuff that takes place out there, and we at this show, and one of the things I have to tell you, when these folks knock on my window while I'm scratching and they compliment you and Malcolm and take care of your wife, one of the things they always say, there's one thing, and I hope you, and I appreciate it by the way, for the nice things you folks say out there, that this show says things that a lot of people don't hear anyplace else.
Absolutely. You don't see it in the newspaper. You won't see it in the item, that's for sure.
We try to tell things the way they are. Now, that doesn't mean, that we're trying to be negative. If you love something, you want to correct it, don't you? I mean, if my child was doing something out of line, a good parent says, hey, your father raised a good kid by telling you what you could and could not do, right? From his life experience.
Right.
Same with you, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what it's all about. I want to get back to our little quiz here. And 781-780-9460. And we're going to go through, and don't put up the answers there, Pedro, but I'm gonna test the sages.
No, don't embarrass me.
I got
on
some
TV.
of them. I don't have all. I got some.
Test
I got
them
some.
out, and then Oh, you don't have the answers. I do. Ha ha ha.
I don't have the answers either.
So, the first question was, what was the first one? Who was
forget.
the only president elected unanimously?
Washington.
And you?
Yeah, that's right. George Washington.
Okay, you're both right.
He's
If
gonna
you're
ask
there,
me-
folks, you're right. Second question was, let me find the questions myself. I have the
don't know what the
answers
question- I wrote the
without the
questions.
questions.
Who was the
Oh, here it
first
is.
president to hold a
Hold a
press conference on
first-
television?
Yeah, who was that?
First president.
I think that
Eisenhower.
was
I think it was Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eisenhower.
How about JFK?
Well, okay.
I think Eisenhower.
I dispute
No,
that.
Eisenhower
but-
didn't. It was JFK.
All right, all right.
That's it. By the way, Eisenhower would be a good choice. That's a
Yeah.
good bad answer.
He was on TV. I don't know if it was.
Yeah.
Well,
Who was
okay.
the first president to hold a press conference on TV? It was JFK.
Okay.
2 elections. This is interesting. 2 elections resulted in the House of Representatives deciding who would be president. Folks don't know that. They talk about thought presidents like George W. Bush that didn't win the popular vote, but won the election. Same with Trump. Same with Harrison. Right. So that's happened a number of times that the majority winner. But also, in 2 instances, they didn't get the 270 electoral votes necessary to become president, which now throws it into the House of Representatives.
Right.
Are you aware of that?
Right.
Okay. And
Well,
so,
one was Tilden. Tilden lost, and Cleveland. Tilden.
the election was 1800. Who was the 2 of the combatants? there?
Jefferson and
Jefferson and Adams.
Adams. Jefferson Adams. All right, and the other one was
Neither
Tilden.
one of them got 270 electoral
Right,
votes.
right.
So it got thrown into the House of Representatives.
So
Adams became
Adams
president.
became president. Right.
Okay. Jefferson wasn't happy
Right,
about that.
Right. But
The next time it happened,
was it Tilden lost? He got the majority of the votes, but he lost in the House.
who?
Tilden.
No.
Yeah.
We're
Oh, yeah.
talking about an election for president.
For
Who got
president.
elected president by the House of Representatives?
Yes, Tilden.
No. John Adams.
Yeah.
And the other one was in 1824.
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson, the corrupt deal, in which John Quincy Adams.
Yes.
So the 2 Adams, who were one-term presidents,
Right.
father and son, both were elected by the House of
Right.
Representatives.
But what about Tilden in the late 19th century? He had
What
the
about him?
highest vote, and he lost in the House of Representatives. He had the highest popular vote, and he lost. I think to Cleveland. I'm not sure. But
Could
Tilden,
be, but
yes, look that up.
the House of Representatives
You
didn't
teach
elect
history.
him.
You teach history, right?
Huh?
You teach history, don't you?
I did a few things.
Yeah. Okay.
So, who was the first president to give a speech on television? This is a tricky one.
I think that was Hoover.
Hoover?
Hoover. Yeah, I think so. It's
Do
tricky.
you think that Hoover had TVs?
Yes, they did. Back in his day, in the 30s, they did. It was an experimental TV. Yes, there was.
I don't think it was
Experimental.
Hoover. No, it
It was
wasn't.
experimental, and it went to a few places in New York City.
You honestly think that, the American public had
I'll bet
TVs
you
at the time?
I'll bet you $100.
All
Put
right,
up the
so
money.
I think it was Harry Truman, no?
Absolutely. See, you
No,
got
I think it was Hoover.
Let me tell you. You went to BU, he went to Harvard.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm taking
No,
the Harvard
no.
guy.
It was Hoover.
It was not, it was
I'll
Truman.
bet you money. I'll tell you.
It was
Hoover.
Truman.
Hoover was the first one on TV.
No.
What was he was called a rugged individualist.
It
A
was
rugged-
experimental
a rugged-
TV and went into New York City.
It may have been, but it wasn't broadcast to the public.
Well, the public could get it.
The
I mean,
issue is the first president to give a speech on television to the American people
Was
was
Harry.
Harry S. Truman.
you may be technically correct.
Excuse me.
No, it's not technically correct. Don't play a game.
Technically.
You know, he wants to take credit for being the monorail guy. You know that. Who was the first president to ride on a railroad?
I would say Grant, U.S. Grant.
Who do you say?
Grant?
Grant?
No, too
Well,
late.
go ahead. He's shaking no.
No, it was
Probably earlier.
Take a wild one.
no, it's not even a wild one. I did
You already mentioned his name once before. Old Hickory.
Oh, Jackson.
Andrew
Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah.
He was the first president to ride a train. And by the way, he was the first president that was elected from a non-original colony, right?
He was also the first president to have a smear campaign against him because of his wife.
Yeah, racial.
Yeah.
Because
No, it wasn't racial. She had a. They kept saying that she didn't get a divorce.
that's right, because they hadn't processed. They didn't have computers back then.
He was the
Okay.
first Democrat to be elected, as the party that we know as the
He was,
Democrats.
no,
today.
actually, he was a DR, hyphenated.
Well, but
he was a
that
Democratic
actually wasn't.
Republican.
That was the forerunner of the Democrat.
But,
we know
but
as the
if you look at
Democratic
his
Party.
policies were more Republican.
That's right. But the
Right.
parties were switched.
In
The
different
ideals were
definitions,
switched.
as he's pointed out, you know, what is racism, what is a
Right,
protest, what is a Democrat, what is a Republican. It's just as tricky to define.
Impossible.
Yeah. So, who was the only president to take the oath of office from a female official?
I think. Oh boy, that was.
Huh?
Was that JFK? Johnson.
Absolutely.
Johnson on the plane.
That-
I
that's
remember.
right. That's right. Yes, I've done
Both
Both
that
of
now,
you
too.
got, and her name, by the way, it was a judge, Judge Sarah Hughes.
Hughes
Right, Judge Sarah- So he took the oath of office on
She
the
was a
plane.
district court judge in Texas.
Yeah.
That's right.
right.
You
Okay.
guys, hey, folks, do you see why they're the sages? I mean, I'm telling you, they think you're chopped liver. I know better. All right. Who was the first president? And this is an interesting one. Who was the first president to run against a woman candidate? And you know, and by the way, this was before the suffrage, right? This was before women had the right to vote. A woman was right for president.
Right.
And she was on a party called the Equal Rights Party.
Right.
And the year, guess what year? 1872. So
72.
who was the president who ran against a woman?
Grover Cleveland.
How about Ulysses S. Grant?
I was close.
Grover Cleveland.
Did I have Grant before?
That was right. That was the second term after the Civil War.
That's right. In his second term. But he liked his tea a little bit, huh?
He more than liked it.
So, and last but not least, who was the only president to have been a prisoner of war?
That's one I just can't quite get. The only president to be a prisoner of war.
Teddy Roosevelt.
That's a good answer. Not the one. That's
No,
not the
no,
answer, but that's a
no.
good answer.
Prisoner
That's
of war.
well thought out.
It had to be something way back. Somebody.
You guys, we've been bandering his name around a lot.
Jackson?
Yeah.
Jackson, because in the Civil, he fought in the Revolutionary War. I
He
think
did.
He did fight in the Revolutionary War.
In the War of
But
1812.
wasn't
And
Teddy Roosevelt held
War of
captive?
1812.
I don't think he was ever captured, but he went up San Juan Hill, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he lost his eye in boxing match in the White House. He lost his sight. One of his eyes.
Teddy Roosevelt? Teddy
He was-
Roosevelt did, yeah.
I mean, they said that his ego made Alaska look small.
Right.
So I stole that line from someone else.
Okay.
And basically, that's it. How much time do we have left there, Pedro?
About 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Do we? Are you
10
sure?
minutes, yeah.
All right. So, what have you specifically been looking at?
Specifically, I've been thinking about the Mueller situation and
And?
how it started. Papalopoulos, how he was the beginning of it, and people don't understand what happened and how that the FBI got involved. From, believe it or not, do you know who actually called the FBI? What country the spy set up from what country? It was Australia.
Yes, right. Downing.
Right, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So let me ask you, do you think that any of this is going to come out? I mean, what you're talking about is well known
Right.
in the inner circles of Washington, D.C., right? I mean, you used to come back and tell me what was happening. You
Right.
still think Biden's going to be the nominee, right?
It's already been taken care of.
So you say Biden's got it in the bag.
Yes.
Have you noticed that Kamala Harris has faded from the screen? She had a day in the sun against Biden.
I don't see her. I don't see her anymore.
Now,
Yeah,
our Rover reporter reminds me that there's going to be a debate
Tuesday.
night of the Democratic.
Tuesday. Camilla Harris is going to be Pocahontas and Joe Biden.
Only three?
I think, is there more than three? I'm not sure.
What about Moulton? Is he ever going to get out on the stage?
Moulton is going to be challenged within his own party by a number of people.
It could have, but the thing of it is, we really should start talking about Moulton. He misrepresents a lot of things about himself. He did not run a business. It was an empty office, right? Is that not
In
right?
Marblehead, that's correct.
Okay, he had no business experience whatsoever.
None.
Okay?
And he claims to have been down in Texas with the Japanese high-speed monorail operation.
And he made a statement on national TV, which he has to really be held accountable, that he doesn't want his daughter being raised in America. That's an incredibly stupid thing for him to say.
I agree.
That's about as stupid a thing as you can possibly make.
So why is he running?
Look,
He's running, but he's not going anywhere. You ever see a guy run on a treadmill? They stay in the same place, but they're running. He's on a treadmill.
I
now,
think he
if
may
you
have
take a look,
destroyed
if you
himself.
take a look at his stats on paper, right?
What stats?
Well, I'm talking about his educational background and stuff. You know, he Phillips Academy, Harvard, actually got a degree in physics.
Right.
Okay. He has an MBA from Harvard, I believe.
No, he does not have an MBA.
Doesn't have an MBA.
No,
He went to
think so,
Kennedy School of Government.
This I don't know, but he doesn't have an MBA.
He won with 60% of the vote against very, very weak opposition. So he's very vulnerable.
He only won because Turney was in the middle of a major scandal.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a major scandal.
And actually, to say did something foolish.
Right.
It wasn't time for him to come out about his
Right.
sexuality.
What drives me crazy, though, is that no Republican is running against him. No Republican. This is a situation in the 6th congressional district where a Republican could win in Massachusetts, because
A Republican won. Torkelson.
at
Not
one
that
time,
long ago.
right? And what
He won
happened?
twice.
And what happened? Why were they defeated? The same thing with Brown when he went to the Senate. They start voting liberal when they go in. Torkelson started
right,
voting
Scott
liberal,
Brown-
and
Scott-
Scott Brown started voting liberal as soon as they went
Scott
in. They both
Brown,
were
you can't
defeated.
use as a model because it was a freak thing that happened.
That's true.
Okay, he ran in another state in New Hampshire. He lost. Okay, so
But he
what is-
did work. He worked hard, though. Brown was everywhere.
I'm not
That's what-
debating that, but I'm just saying he's not really something you can use as a model.
Right.
So,
See, there are very few people. To win, and you've run for politics, and I've worked in politics. It is very, very hard work. There's not many people who will go out there, put some of their own money in, have enough people to help them, where they're going to knock on doors, they're going to do all the paperwork, lick the envelopes, do the
how
marketing.
much do you think the media controls outcomes of elections?
In this state, almost 100%, close to 100%.
So, if the Globe decides to, like the Globe is, I don't know if you're aware of the fact that Moulton was a creation of the Globe.
I'm not aware.
But the Globe was writing stories about him.
Why?
Because he was part of that clique, the establishment of Globe.
Then he passes himself off as a war hero.
Yeah.
He
He
did.
did a TV show.
He was not a real soldier.
Well, he wasn't dodging bullets.
Okay.
But here's what I'm saying. If you take a look at who the Globe will promote, or the Item, or the Salem Evening News, they create candidates. They give them, I mean, for example, Omar. There is a question whether that's even her name.
I don't know. Who cares?
Is she the one that married
From
her?
Minnesota.
She married her
brother's
brother, right?
But the point is that she's the darling of the press. They're protecting her from any scrutiny.
Right.
They protect Bill Clinton from scrutiny with Jeffrey Epstein and many others, right? The media certainly knows what's happening. It's common knowledge,
Well,
but they don't print it, right?
If anybody ever got a free ride from having good press was JFK. All the crap that he pulled in the White House.
JFK, absolutely, no question.
Ridiculous.
But he was, that's the talk I'm talking about. There's a mythology about
Okay.
JFK
Fine.
that doesn't
He was
exist.
this great guy. He was a good president in some ways, right?
No, he wasn't.
But
He was
morally,
terrible.
I mean,
He almost got us in 2 nuclear wars, Ralph.
I know that's true. And while Jackie was out of the White House, he had 2 prostitutes come over. Can you remember their names?
Yes, I
what
do.
were their names?
Campbell and the point of the matter.
No.
Exner?
Fiddle and Faddle. Exner was something different.
Look, he was sharing bedmates with Giancana.
Right.
And when he was provided females from Frank Sinatra, okay?
He was supposed to stay at Frank Sinatra's house.
And he went to Bill Crosby's instead.
Well, no, what happened was his brother, who was the Attorney General, said, "Are you crazy? This is a convicted, you can't stay there."
They say one time that actually when Jackie was coming home unexpectedly early, that at Fiddle and Faddle, the 2 prostitutes were in the pool, or in some pool where he was, I guess maybe down the Cape, and they had to run in, they had to go in the pool and actually pull them out and throw them into cars before Jackie got.
You know the worst part of the whole thing? That his father, Joe Kennedy, made him, the guys that song and dance at that time. Remember the Rat Pack, Dean Martin,
Sammy
Joey
Davis,
Bishop,
Peter
Sammy
Lawford.
Davis Jr. The father they were bananas because Sammy Davis Jr. married or was dating Kim Novak,
Right.
and then he married a white girl.
And the head of the studio said to Kim Novak, "You either get rid of him right now, or your career is going in the toilet." That was Sam Cohn.
All right.
Right. How did JFK's father lose his job as the English ambassador?
Very simple. He backed Hitler.
He backed Hitler. That's right. Very good.
Backed Germany.
He said Hitler was a fine man.
Yeah, I know that.
And for years, he was what you call a prostitute. Every case of scotch that came into this country, he got $1 on.
That's
They
true.
hated him in England.
Well, he got the distributorship, the dealership, or whatever you call them, the distilleries.
Of doers or?
Well, he was ambassador, and he got they were producing all the stuff up in Scotland, right?
Right.
And they turned around and went to Canada,
Right.
which was a Commonwealth nation, and they bootlegged it into the United States
Yeah.
during
He
Prohibition.
controlled a famous brand. Was it Doers or what was it?
I don't know.
A Scotch?
Black and white.
Black and white.
Johnny Walker,
Who
Black,
cares?
whatever.
Low-class man if there ever was one.
Yeah, and actually, the thing was this, is that here you have folks that look at Kennedy as being very favorable to the African-American community,
Right.
when his father was the racist of the first order,
And an anti-Semite to boot.
on top of it.
And
Yeah.
he must be turning over in his grave when he knows that at least 3 of his grandchildren married my people.
That's true. It's funny.
Okay, he must be, worms must be in his face right now, okay? And it could happen to a nicer man in the grave, okay?
Well,
And Jackie got in trouble because she married a Greek who was married before, and the church, of course, she was
wait a minute.
excommunicated.
She did not marry, but she also was with the.
She married him for one reason. You know why she
Aristotle.
married him? Because he was the only one who could provide her with the best security for her and her kids, as opposed to the Secret Service, okay?
That's a good reason.
Remember
That's
the
why
big
she
blow
did
up
it.
around here.
We wish our best to Malcolm's wife.
Right.
Fuh shalem, as they say in Hebrew, Mrs. Mitchell. Please get better, my dear.
Be good, Wendy. Be good. Be good. Be healthy.
And thank you, Hirsch, for that, once again, that amazing cartoon. You have a talent that's a gift from God. And number 2, shalom. And from here on, to anybody that sees me in Starbucks, the Market Basket, or Whole Foods, leave me alone. Please. Thank you.